Glad to see you again. Welcome back to my channel. This is Omolo the Great, and this time we're going to talk about the renal system, okay? Physiology of the renal system. Alright, so of interest for this video, we're going to talk about the introduction, okay? We're going to look at different roles of the kidney, the functional anatomy, and renal blood flow. Alright, so what is this renal system? So the renal system is one important system that plays a fundamental role in forming urine. Okay, so it's composed of different organs, especially in this case the kidney. Composed of the kidney is a vital organ in the renal system. These kidneys play very fundamental roles that we need to know. Okay, so the primary role of the kidney is actually to form urine, but the other roles that the kidney is able to play, and what are some of those? One, the kidney plays a very fundamental role in metabolism. Okay, so the kidney can play, the renal cells can actually perform gluconeogenesis. Okay, so it has a primary role in metabolism. Okay, so it can perform some metabolic functions. The kidney has a role in acid-base balance. Okay, so it has a fundamental role in acid-base balance. We are going to see as we move on in our discussion in the subsequent videos that actually the kidney has special cells that play vital roles in handling hydrogen and bicarbonate ions. For example, we shall talk of the intercalated cells where you have type A cells that play a very vital role in secreting hydrogen ions, okay, and reabsorbing of obviously potassium in terms of acidosis, and the type B cells, intercalated cells, that actually play a vital role in secreting bicarbonate ions in states of alkalosis. But also we'll see different mechanisms that the kidney plays, that the kidney employs in handling hydrogen ions in states of acidosis, which include, for example, secreting hydrogen ions and reabsorbing the bicarbonates to neutralize the hydrogen, the acidity, and also forming new bicarbonates. Some of these we are going to see as we move on. Another role of the kidney is toxin and waste product removal. Okay, so the kidney plays a very fundamental role in excretion, okay, of various toxins. For example, the kidney, especially at the proximal convoluted tubule, you have, as we shall see, produces a lot of ammonia. We have waste products of muscle metabolism, okay, or muscle activity, including creatinine that is also excreted. We also have several drugs. When we are on treatment, there are some drugs that can be excreted in urine. So some of those can actually be excreted in form of urine by the kidney, and that's a very fundamental role. Another role of the kidney is actually water balance. Okay, so the kidney plays a very fundamental role in handling the amount of water that we have in the body. For example, when you are in states of dehydration, the kidney will conserve all the possible amount of water from the filtrates, okay, so that can retain the fluid status in the body. And then when you have excess fluid, obviously it's going to pass out a lot of that fluid in form of dilute urine. Okay, so the kidney also plays another fundamental role in production of erythropoietin. Okay, erythropoietin production. So erythropoietin production, you know, erythropoietin is a hormone that helps in erythropoiesis together with erythropoietin. Some of these cells of the kidney found within the cortex, and especially also at the corticomedullary junction, there are cells there that actually play a vital role in production of erythropoietin, especially in states of hypoxia. For example, when you're at high altitude or in any form of hypoxia, you're going to have production of interleukins, including interleukin-1, that will play a vital role in stimulating organs like the kidney to produce erythropoietin so that erythropoiesis can take place. Another fundamental role of the kidney plays a role in bone homeostasis. Okay, it plays a vital role in bone homeostasis. So in homeostasis of bone, this is the kidney has ability to convert the inactive form of vitamin D, that is 25-hydroxycholecalciferol, synthesized from the liver and all obviously input from the skin. So this, it activates it. Some of these cells, especially from the proximal tubular cells, can actually convert this 25-hydroxycholecalciferol or 25 vitamin D3 to active form of 125-cholecalciferol, and this can be channeled to the GIT and plays a very big role in the lumen of the gut, okay, to assist in reabsorption of calcium, okay. So in terms of when we need to bone to be deposited, this kidney can play a very fundamental role. So another role of the kidney is electrolyte balance, okay. It plays a very fundamental role in balancing amounts of electrolytes in the body. Some of these include sodium, potassium, we have phosphates, magnesium, calcium. So as we shall see now in these subsequent discussions, that actually the kidney plays very vital roles. For example, in potassium hemostasis, whereby it can perform a role in excretion of potassium ion in states of hyperkalemia, or maybe conserve the amount of potassium when it is needed in states of hyperkalemia. So the kidney usually has a balance to establish, and this usually happens, as you shall see, in conditioned states of hormones, okay. Some of these hormones we shall look at aldosterone, that plays a very vital role in assisting in potassium secretion or excretion. So these are very vital roles. Another very vital important role of the kidney is actually what we call BP regulation, okay. The kidney has a very vital role in regulation of the human blood pressure. So when we look, we're going to see different, maybe you've heard of the renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system, involving also ADH input when we're discussing cardiovascular physiology. So the kidney, in its role in production of renin, has very significant mechanisms that help in blood pressure control. But also you realize that actually some of the arterial systems of the, as we shall see, of the kidney, okay, for example, at the level of the interlobular arteries and the afferent arteries, they have some actually baroreceptors that play a vital role in detecting the changes in the blood pressure and bring about the subsequent or required response. But also we have the chemoreceptors that are found at the level of the pelvis, okay, that play a vital role in detecting chemo changes, especially in hydrogen, and can bring about modulations in this blood pressure. All right, so let's move into, that's briefly about the the different functions of the kidney. But remember, the primary role is actually to form urine. Yes, so we're done with the introduction role of the kidney. Functional anatomy. It's important to remember that actually the kidney, it's a pair, okay? So everyone has a pair. So these are paired organs that are found within the abdominal cavity, but they are retroperitoneal. So these are retroperitoneal organs that are found within the abdominal cavity, and they usually in males may averagely may be of weight about 150 grams, and in female of about 135 grams, as some of pathologists report. And then anatomically, you find that these kidneys will span from the level of around, maybe from here, from around T12, or vertebral level of T12, to around vertebral level of L4, okay? So when you look at the positioning, anatomical arrangement of these kidneys, from around T12 to L4, you find this, that's where we can find our kidneys at vertebral level. So what are some of the compositions, okay? So obviously we see this is the bean-sized, bean-shaped organ here. This is what we call the kidney, okay? So what happens this side is actually on the other side. So these are our kidneys actually, okay? So just write the kidneys. The kidneys have an outer layer, as we shall see from there, which is called a capsule, okay? They have an outer capsule, which is a renal capsule. And that renal capsule opens up at this point, okay, which we call a hilum, as we shall see. So around this area here, this is the hilum, okay? So at that hilum, that's where we have a lot, we have the renal vessels. We have this is the renal artery, the one in red, okay? The renal artery. And then this one in blue is the renal vein, okay? Together with autonomic nervous system input, which I could not represent here, that follow through, they follow this arterial or vascular system to enter inside into the kidney, okay? And then we have this this structure here that is moving out. This is what we call the, at this point, this is the renal pelvis, okay? And right from the renal pelvis, we have other segments that continue to complete the urinary system. After the kidney has formed urine, there is need for that urine to actually be shunted down into a storage organ. So we have, this is what we call the ureters, okay? And obviously ureters move into what we call the bladder or the urinary bladder, okay? And obviously you're able to void out your urine through a urethra, okay? For both male and female. All right. So grossly, this is what we can see on gross arrangement. This is what we can see, and this is what we can report functionally about our kidney. And for, let's move deeper. So if I take just a longitudinal section through the kidney, just right here, this is what I have. Let's look at the different areas, functional areas of the kidney that are of interest. One, I already told you, I've not represented here. We have the renal vessels, okay, the arterial and venous system. I've not represented that here, but you've seen there. And then obviously this is the ureter that enters at the hilum, okay, and this is our pelvis, okay. So this is our renal pelvis at this point, okay. And obviously don't forget that we have an outer capsule, okay, which we call the renal capsule, okay. So it has an outer capsule that opens at this point, okay, around the forming a hilum, which is an entry point for those vessels, an exit point for our ureters, okay, and then forms what you call an initial area called the renal sinus. So from this renal sinus at this point here, an invagination, the renal sinus is an invagination of the renal of the capsule, okay, where point when it opens up. Okay, and then after it has opened up, what do we see next is actually the pelvis. So importantly, this is the renal pelvis, okay, that we see. Now, let's focus here now. This renal pelvis actually stretches out, okay, and moves deep and divides into different structures here. We have what we call calyces. You see these divisions, this, okay. So we have what we call major calyces, okay, just like you see this hand as a major calyx and divides to give me minor calyces. So these are calyces, okay? Calyces, where we have this area here, mainly these, which are the major, okay? And then we have these, which are the what? Which are the minor, okay? Minor calyces. And where do these minor calyces terminate? They terminate at the point called a papilla. Okay, so they terminate at the papilla area, okay, at this point, okay, which is the tip of these pyramidal-like structures. So these are called pyramids, and these are what you call, this is the papilla, okay. So what does it mean? It means that as we shall see, the distribution of, let me introduce a new term called nephrons. So those nephrons, which are the function unit of the kidney, as we're going to see, they span and empty from the collecting duct. They empty their content, our urine, down into the calyces. When they empty into the calyces, now urine collects, okay? Now urine collects here and then is shunted down. I hope that is clear, right? So this is it. So we have the pyramid. So the important two divisions of the kidney. So if you look at macroscopically, okay, you divide the kidney, it is divided into two. We have what you call the medulla, okay, and then we have what you call the cortex. So in this case, where is the medulla? So this, where we find these pyramids, okay, this area here that we are seeing in this inner circle, this is what we call this area here. This is what we call the medulla, okay, the renal medulla, okay, and functionally it is very, very important. We shall see differences in osmolarity between the medulla and the cortex that is important, plays a very fundamental role in urine concentration, okay. So, and this area here now that is left, okay, this is what we call the cortex, okay. This is what we call the cortex or renal cortex, which is a granular layer full of a lot of nephrons, okay, as we shall see in our next discussion. Okay, so finally, to finalize this video, let me talk about the renal blood flow. So the arrangement, as we talked about from the vessels, okay, so these blood vessels, for example, definitely from what we know, when you have an arterial system, okay, it enters into an organ, okay, supplies an organ through from the arterial system, giving us a capillary bed network, and then comes out in form of a venous system. That's the same stem arrangement that we are going to see here. So let me try and just represent something small here, okay. So, and I call this something like this, okay. So we are saying we're going to see the arterial system, or I should have used another color, okay. Well, let me maintain it. So let me call this let me use green. So let me use green to mean my arterial system, okay. So usually that is the renal artery, okay. So the renal artery, which is usually coming from around the celiac plexus or celiacrum, so it comes, and when it reaches in here, it divides to give us an anterior and a posterior branch, okay. So when it divides into an anterior and posterior branch, now remember we have, I'm just going to illustrate some. We have pyramids, okay, and when from these pyramids we have the various calyces, the minor and major calyces and the rest, okay. So in this arterial system, when it comes, it divides into these two major branches, okay, the anterior and posterior, and then this anterior and posterior now forms segmental arteries that have to segment through to find a way to reach, because they need to segment through the callus, the area of the calyces, okay. So these are segmental arteries. When they segment through the area of the calyces, what happens? Then we form what you call the interlobar artery, okay. So first we've seen is what we are calling the segmental artery, okay. This is the renal artery, okay, which gives us an anterior and a posterior branch, and then these are the segmental arteries, okay, segmental arteries. So from the segmental artery, we have this artery that spans through in between different pyramids, and this is what we call this one here. This is what we call the interlobar artery, okay. So this interlobar artery spans out there, and then now it branches or forms an arch, okay, and that's why we call it the arcuate artery. The arcuate artery, okay, ARCUATE, arcuate artery. And now this arcuate artery usually branches at this point, at this corticomedullary junction, and now then now it finds its way, spans through to enter into the cortex of the kidney. The one that enters into the cortex of the kidney is now what we call the interlobular artery, okay. So it is this interlobular artery now that actually comes and joins. Let me illustrate something here, as we shall see from our anatomical arrangement. So if this is one of our nephrons, okay, at the level of the glomerulus. So now from there, so we have an afferent capillary network and an efferent artery. So this is what we have. So this is an afferent, this is the afferent artery, and this is the efferent, rather arterial. These two are arterials, afferent and an efferent arterial. So now this efferent arterial now spans down along the length of the tubule, okay, the length of the nephron, the tubule, giving us another level of capillaries, the capillary network, which we call the peritubular capillaries, okay, the peritubular capillaries. Now these peritubular capillaries, what happens? They're the ones now that move to join and form a venous system, join into the venous system, okay. So as we shall see, this is a representation. So it joins into the venous system, and then we return in the same way. Remember, the arteries and then the veins are the same. What we need to change is just the name. So when we are from peritubular, what was the last arterial that we had was called interlobular. So the next vein here, venule, is an interlobular venule, okay? And then what happens next? From the interlobular, then we form the arcuate, the arcuate. Then from the arcuate, we form the interlobar. Then we form the segmental, and then we move the joints, the branches here, and then moves out through the renal vein. So simply, that is it about the renal blood flow. Let me try and put it quite simpler here. So the first thing we said, we have the renal artery, okay, that moves to join, that moves to divide into, gives us an anterior and a posterior branch, okay. So these branches form what we call the segmental arteries. These segmental arteries move and divide, they form what we call the interlobar arteries. The interlobar arteries form the arcuate artery, and the arcuate artery gives us what we call the interlobular artery. From the interlobular artery, then we form the afferent artery, and then from this afferent, obviously, to the glomerular capillaries network, then forms us the efferent, and then gives us the peritubular capillaries. That is if this venous system is within the cortex. If these arterial capillaries are within the cortex. If these arterial capillaries span down into the medulla, then they change the name from peritubular capillaries to vasa recta. So we shall see these more as we discuss the vasa recta. Okay. Yeah. So this brings me to the end of our this introduction, part 1 on the renal system. This was just a brief introduction on the functional, first part of the functional anatomy. And 2, what we are going to look at is actually in part 2, we are now going to move to look at the nephron. So please stay tuned. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.